All right, let me jump back to part 3, and I got one more section of where we'll be answering questions. And here, I want to go into the final piece here of what gives an NFT value, and I want to talk about 3 concepts: scarcity, provenance, and future value. I want to start by showing the graph of the tulips. So here we go. On screen, you can see the price of the tulips back in 1636 and 1637. And if you're not watching with me here, you see this crazy graph where the price of a tulip goes from being basically the price of a flower, basically like $1, up until the price of someone's annual wage, basically $40,000 equivalent, and then crashes back down to $1 about a year and a half later. This is known as tulip mania. Actually, a picture of this was on the wall of Gordon Gekko in the movie Wall Street 2, which is a terrible movie, by the way. Shame on you, Oliver Stone, for making that movie. But you can tell that Gekko knew what was up. And the tulip mania shows that humans have a tendency sometimes to go crazy and create asset bubbles. And again, you can go deep into tulip mania. It's very interesting. It was actually one of the few times in human history where futures contracts were created, where leverage was created synthetically, and where hype happened to where there was an asset bubble around a flower. This is real, the real thing that happened. There was a short squeeze, and these things became really a high value for a long time. But it went to show that there was emotion involved. There was also scarcity involved. And it's a very human phenomenon to see these asset bubbles grow, and they also burst. And I've seen it on Wall Street so many times. We had the Asian crisis. Then we had the Russian ruble crisis. Then we had the mortgage crisis. There's always the Latin American debt crisis. We will continue to have crises for as long as humans are alive. Because why? We get emotional about trading. And this is what I try to teach my students in Module 4 of the DeFi Accelerator. Don't get emotional about trading, because it usually leads to the wrong decisions. And so that's why we need to go deep on this and really understand what's going on. So let's talk about scarcity, provenance, and future value. Let me show you a little bit of an example of what scarcity is. And so you can see a picture here of some CryptoPunks. And again, you can see some CryptoPunks here. Here's 9 CryptoPunks. And again, these are 24 by 24 pixelated images. And one of the reasons the CryptoPunks are valuable is because they have scarcity. Let's talk about scarcity, because there was a question earlier about whether the ETH rocks will continue to be valuable. There are only 100 ETH rocks, and they were minted back in 2017, which means because of the blockchain, you can't go back and recreate them unless you have a time machine. And that's the beauty of NFTs, is that nobody can go back and mess with that blockchain. And there's only 100 ETH rocks. So right now, Justin Sun owns one of them, and 99 other people own them. And this will always be a part of art history, as people would say, right? This is a part of not only art, but of history and also technology. And so these have a scarcity that will never change. There will only be 100 of the original ETH rocks. And that in itself makes things valuable. It's one of the reasons gold is valuable. It's one of the reasons why any collectible is valuable. I can go right now to the National Gallery in Britain, and it has a lot of pieces of art that are very, very scarce. And it's something as humans that we value because there are only a few of those. And I could argue that if there were 1 million ETH rocks or 1 million printed every day, if there were 1 million Monets made every day by Monet himself, that the value wouldn't be there as much. And so scarcity is important to understand. When it comes to CryptoPunks, there's only 10,000 CryptoPunks, and they're all unique and they're all scarce at this point. And that's what breeds in a certain amount of value, is that concept of scarcity. So keep that in mind. That also applies to beachfront property. It also applies to Lamborghinis. There's only a certain amount of those built every day. Even Hublot watches. There's only a certain number of Hublots that were made in 2007 whenever I bought this watch. And so all of that is programmed into things we value and the NFTs as well. But let's go further. Let's talk about this concept of provenance. Provenance is history of ownership. So again, look at what happened on OpenSea a couple weekends ago when I was sleeping. Somebody bought my Saturn NFT that BitBoy Crypto gave me. Now, there's 10,000 of those things. Is mine special? You might like it, but it doesn't look that special. But I owned it. And you can see that Brian Rose owned this. It was gifted to him by BitBoy Crypto. And boom, then it went up and now it was bought for 1 ETH. And in the future, maybe that history of ownership has value. And this is something that's built into the blockchain. And again, if I go right now to the Louvre in Paris and I look at the Mona Lisa, first of all, I need someone to prove to me that's real. I need someone to prove to me who owned that throughout the years. I don't know who owned it, maybe kings and queens and all of these different people. That's the provenance, and that's why that piece has value. This now is all built into the blockchain. And the final thing I want to talk about is future value. These things potentially have future value, and that gives them value today. So again, look at an ETH rock. If you think that's an important part of art history, why not buy that sucker for $500,000, knowing that the crypto market, the crypto assets, there's trillions that are going to be dumped into this market over the next 5-10 years. And there's going to be people that want these assets. There's going to be people with MetaMask wallets that can plug in. There's going to be a younger generation that values digital art. You can just see that there's potentially going to be future value. And so all of this adds up into a mix that's giving NFTs value right now. Now, will it crash like a tulip bubble? We're going to have to see. But right now, it seems that there's a ton of room for this ecosystem to grow and for NFTs to grow as well. And I just want to call out and say that I think Andy Warhol, one of the original gangsters of creating art from scratch, and here's a picture of him, I think would be well impressed with what's going on with NFTs right now, because he'd be watching this saying, wow, I would love to get in on some of this action. And here's one of Andy's famous paintings of the Campbell's soup cans. Again, Andy sold pieces like this on screen for millions of dollars. And literally, this is a picture of a Campbell's soup can that he made different colors. And he did this with Mao. He did this with Marilyn Monroe. These weren't even his pictures, and yet he created art from other arts. Right now, Andy would be having a field day right now when it comes to NFTs. And so I think these are just some of the many ways where you can really find value inside non-fungible tokens, and it's an extremely exciting place to be right now.